Welcome, everyone, to the 11th annual induction ceremony. For those of you I have not met yet, I am Erin McDermott. I arrived here in early August with a lot less orange in my life and feeling a bit like a first year. Not knowing anyone well, not knowing where anything was, and needing to learn a whole new set of institutional acronyms, which gets very confusing. I've spent a lot of time meeting with many people across campus and learning about the University of Chicago. I observed many hallmark events during orientation for the first-year students. And through both, I've developed a better sense of the soul of the institution, and I'm inspired every day by the excellence and commitment that I witness. It's an honor to share this evening with you and to be serving as your athletic director. I continue to be excited about our work and what we can accomplish together. Tonight, we are here to celebrate our Athletics Hall of Fame inductees. We have a fantastic class of Maroons to recognize, with diversity of sports, skills, and generations, representing our roots with all Big Ten to our present with all UAA selections. Congratulations, Adam Hughes, Cinnamon Pace, Gary Pearson, Ted Repass, Paul, otherwise known as Pete Russell, Janet Torrey Schultz, and Brandon Way. Let's give a round for everybody. Together, you comprise 5 all-region selections, 1 state champion, 4 NCAA tournament appearances, including 1 Final Four, 2 UAA offensive players of the year, 4 most valuable players, 2 All-America selections, 11 all-conference selections, 2 conference championships, and 13 all-time school records. Go ahead. I've been asked to share some thoughts on the relationship between athletics and the intellectual context of the university, as well as my overall ambitions for the department. So I will do my best to be brief on topics of which I am so passionate. Many people have asked why I came and why I left that institution in New Jersey. I was drawn here for many reasons, but most importantly, I knew we had philosophical agreement. At my core, I believe in the educational model of athletics. The university is committed to the life of the mind. Athletics is committed to the relationship between mind and body. Together, we are committed to the holistic educational student experience. Coaches are teachers, and we are all here to help develop young people into better athletes, better teammates, and ultimately, better citizens in the world. We want student athletes to have a winning experience, but be uncompromising in our educational approach and support of their academic pursuits. I want each athlete to experience at least 1 championship if they have that opportunity within the UAA, because they deserve to experience that magic. And I believe we can also compete in more NCAA championships. I want all student athletes to compete in facilities that they are proud to call their Maroon home. We are committed to servicing all students in the broadest and most impacting ways through sport clubs and intramurals, Phoenix Fitness and Fit Chicago classes, and making Ratner and Henry Crown as optimal as possible to accommodate current interests in fitness and physical activity. Events such as this one reinforce the role of intercollegiate athletics in the academy. Recognizing the best of the best annually spreads maroon pride and fosters a culture of celebration and recognition that speaks volumes to our current student athletes and our UChicago community. Each one of our Hall of Fame members has impacted lives while a student athlete, coach, or athletic director, here and at every phase of their lives. They inspire us to be our very best, and we strive to make them proud. Those in attendance tonight honor us with your presence. Please join me in recognizing Athletics Hall of Fame members Jessica Berry, Gerald Clark, Bill Gray, Ann Harvella, Dan Phillips, Mark Mosier, Mary Jean Mulvaney, Claire Orner, and Derek Wright. We have our current Graduate Order of the C and Graduate Women's Athletic Association presidents also in attendance, Dennis Walden, Callie Brown and Kate Volzer. I also want to recognize John Craig, who is here and serves as our NCAA faculty athletic representative. John attends UAA and NCAA meetings as our voting delegate, and we so appreciate his time and attention in these matters. He also served on quite a few search committees last year and was a trooper. Thanks, John. It is now my pleasure to introduce Karen Warren Coleman, the person who gave me this opportunity to lead physical education and athletics. Karen is Vice President for Campus Life and Student Services. She joined the University of Chicago in 2009 as Associate Vice President for Campus Life and Associate Dean of Students in the university. In that role, she oversaw the division-wide strategic initiatives, including a plan to expand undergraduate student housing and the creation of a comprehensive on-campus dining initiative. She has held student affairs positions at the University of California, Berkeley, George Washington University, the University of Vermont, and Hobart and William Smith Colleges. The Office of Campus and Student Life comprises more than 340 staff members in several departments, including physical education and athletics. Please welcome Karen Warren Coleman.
Good evening. It is wonderful to see everyone. Thank you, Erin. This is what I get for following a former basketball player. Need to lower the mic. On behalf of the university, I'd like to formally welcome you all to the Hall of Fame dinner. It is really a thrill to be here and to see all of you and see such a packed house. It's good to have a problem of trying to cram more people in the room. That's what I like to see. And I'd like to extend my congratulations to all of our newest inductees to the Athletics Hall of Fame, and extend my congratulations to the family, the friends, and fellow athletes with us here tonight. Our inductees wouldn't be here without your support and encouragement. Although President Zimmer could not join us here tonight, he asked that I share with you a brief statement on his behalf. As we celebrate the 11th anniversary of the University of Chicago Athletics Hall of Fame, I am very pleased to send my thanks and best wishes to the new Hall of Fame inductees their friends and families, and everyone attending this evening to show their support. I regret that I could not be with you to celebrate, but please accept my heartfelt congratulations to the 2013 inductees and the family members here on their behalf. I'd also like to thank Lester Munson for serving as MC this evening, and many thanks to the volunteers of this year's selection committee chaired by John Davey for your valuable and much appreciated work. Thank you again for all you do to support athletics at the University of Chicago. Tonight, before we officially recognize those athletes whose performance and dedication to UChicago athletics has distinguished them and the university, I'd like to discuss the important role that athletics plays here at UChicago, as Aaron began to introduce. Physical education athletics is an integral part of the University of Chicago community and within campus and student life, which is a division that is very proud to carry the core mission of the university, changing the world through the power of ideas, to all aspects of life outside the classroom, enriching the lives of our students, staff, and faculty members, and contributing to a vibrant, collaborative, and diverse campus community that inspires excellence. Our student athletes are scholars who focus on academics while excelling beyond the classroom walls. Through their participation in athletics, students have the opportunities to develop core interpersonal and communication skills, improve their analytical and strategic thinking, and engage with others with humility and confidence. Recreation and athletics are critical to the university's efforts to build community and enhance student leadership opportunities. The university has a robust program in place with varsity sports, intramurals, and sport clubs, and we're committed to maintaining this strong program and taking steps with Aaron as our new athletic director to reimagine and expand our fitness and education programs. So speaking of Erin as our new AD, I'd like to talk briefly about the search process for her position. Though we embarked on a thorough national search, in the end, truly the decision was simple. Erin's vision, talents, enthusiasm, all were clearly evident from our first conversations with her. In her 13 years at Princeton, she strengthened the academic integration for student athletes, admission processes, campus wellness programs, and student life broadly, skills which will serve her well as she builds upon our great traditions here at UChicago. During her brief time here, Erin has already proven to be a true institutional citizen, evidenced in the breadth and depth of relationships she has already built. She's innovative, thoughtful, dedicated, so dedicated, of course, that she worked on and secured the hire of our new head football coach while she was still sort of exiting from Princeton. So welcome, Chris, and thank you, Erin. We're very fortunate. And don't worry, we've also made sure that we've given Erin some great UChicago maroon gear so she's not caught walking across campus in that Princeton orange. Before I move on, I'd be remiss if I didn't take a moment to also thank Brian Baldea and Rosie Rush for their service as co-interim athletic directors who served as co-interim athletic directors while our search was underway. They were amazing stewards of the program and showed tremendous care for the experience of our student athletes, our coaches, and staff, as they've always done. They oversaw the Department of Physical Education and Athletics during a period of significant transition and ensured that programs and opportunities for community building continued without interruption. To them, we are incredibly grateful, so thank you. I'd also like to echo President Zimmer's comments by thanking John Davey and the members of the Athletic Hall of Fame Selection Committee for their continued service to the university and to athletics. Now, as we prepare to induct our 11th class into the Hall of Fame, I want to applaud each of our inductees for your accomplishments and your contributions to intercollegiate athletics. From Paul Russell's time playing for head coach Amos Alonzo Stagg in 1913, to Janet Torrey Schultz's honor as a 3-time MVP across 2 sports, our inductees this evening are a diverse group of athletes whose careers and achievements span a broad spectrum of time, sports, and traditions. It is my incredible pleasure to congratulate you as you join an elite group of fellow athletes. Thank you.
For those who have been here before, I have to do this again, you know it's Lester's show now. It's time for Lester Munson to lead us. Lester has served as Master of Ceremonies for each of 11 years of the University of Chicago Athletics Hall of Fame. As you can see on the screen, Lester earned his JD from the University of Chicago Law School in 1967. After several years in politics and law, he entered the field of investigative and legal affairs reporting. Lester served on the staff of Sports Illustrated from 1991 to 2007. He is now a writer, producer, and legal analyst at ESPN and ESPN.com. His recent assignments include the storied investigations of notorious Lance Armstrong, Roger Clemens, and Barry Bonds, the scandal at Penn State, and the concussion crisis in the NFL. He is a frequent commentator on NPR, PBS, and many other broadcast outlets. Please welcome Lester Munson.
During the month of October, there is a flawless way to measure a university. Here is how you measure a university during this month. You look around and you see, are there any Nobel Prize winners? And is the football team winning? The football team is 4-1. I want you to meet, we've already mentioned his first name, his last name is Wilkerson. Coach Wilkerson, stand up, 4-1 in his first season. Now, this may come as a surprise to some of you, but we did have 2 Nobel Prize winners. Economists, can you believe that at this university? Lars Peter Hansen and Eugene Fama won the Nobel Prize. I don't know exactly how you could meet Eugene Fama or Lars Hansen, but tomorrow you can watch the football team play McAlester, and I understand the final score is going to be Maroons 34, McAlester 7. It is a real privilege for me to be a part of this program. I'm here with my wife, Judy. We look forward to this every year. It is a particular treat for me because as a journalist, as a person who works in sports media, all of my work is on the very dark side of the sports world, as you heard in Aaron's introduction. I do enjoy that work. There's probably something seriously wrong with me that I love rooting around in other people's trouble, but that is what I do. And believe me, in the world of sports, both college sports and professional sports, there is plenty of work for an investigative reporter who knows how to do police reporting and the other things that I do. Recently, for example, I have worked on white-collar crime among team owners. I have worked on the pedophilia scandal at Penn State and a massive cover-up by the top officials of the university. I have been working on a story that will be on ESPN week after next about the city of Detroit that is bankrupt but is spending money on a new hockey stadium. I've reported on the concussion crisis in the NFL, and I've been also working incredibly on a series of murders. The team owner that I'm working on is a fellow named Jimmy Haslam. He is the owner of the Cleveland Browns football team. He is also the owner of a massive business in Knoxville, Tennessee, called Pilot Flying J. If you've been on an interstate recently, you see pilot signs everywhere. They have 600 stores that sell diesel fuel. They have 24,000 employees. And according to an FBI investigation that is now a year and a half old, they have been systematically and deliberately gouging their customers. They say to the trucking company, we will charge you X per gallon. we're giving you a discount of 20 cents per gallon, and then when it's time to pay the discount in the form of a rebate check, they cheat on the amounts of the checks. The FBI has recordings of these businessmen as they plan to gouge their customers. I am a sports writer. I work in the sports industry. I've been in the military. I thought I had heard bad language in the course of my life. You have never heard anything like what these guys are doing at Pilot Flying J. The price gouging and the money involved may explain how this man managed to buy the Cleveland Browns, and it may explain how he kept his company profitable during the Great Recession. The Penn State story, which most of you know about, continues to be a serious problem for the world of college sports. The president of the university, the vice president, and the athletic director have all been charged with perjury and obstruction of justice for the cover-up which they did of what Coach Sandusky was doing to the little boys whom he brought to the football buildings on that campus. The evidence against these men is overwhelming. I have written about it extensively for ESPN on our website, and I've done a number of television segments on it. But incredibly, now the prosecution is beginning to fall apart primarily because of errors which were made by the attorney for Penn State University. It's almost like yet another step in the cover-up. Because of the errors by this lawyer, these men may walk away with a finding of not guilty because of her blunders, and it could be the ultimate step in the cover-up. Most of you know about the situation in the city of Detroit. The street lights do not work. Police squad cars cannot start. A response to a 911 call takes about an hour. They are selling art, priceless art, from the city museum. And while they're doing all this, they are spending $284 million in public money on a new hockey stadium for the Red Wings. Incredibly, both the Democrats and the Republicans in the state are supporting this effort. There will be more to come on this on ESPN. In the National Football League, the most profitable and most powerful enterprise in the history of the sports industry, they faced a serious problem on concussions. Players felt that the owners and the coaches had systematically deceived them by telling them if they got a hit on the helmet, their bell rung in the patois of football, they could go back out and continue to play in the game. We now know that concussions cause serious injuries, they cause dementia, they cause depression, and in some cases they have caused suicides. The players finally woke up to this. They filed 4,500 lawsuits against the NFL. It looked like we were going to find out exactly what the NFL had done to its players, and then for some reason the attorneys for the players decided to settle for the sum of $765 million. That sounds like a little bit of money, no question about it. It would come handy even here at the University of Chicago, but that's money they are going to pay over 20 years. This is a $9 billion per year industry, so these owners are basically getting away with a slap on the wrist. Will we ever know whether they deceived the players on concussion injuries? No, we will now not know. Some of the players finally now are beginning to indicate they may not accept this, and they may continue the case, and we may find out what the NFL was doing. One of the biggest cases is a case from Chicago here, Dave Pearson, who played on the 1985 Bears team. He ended up a suicide. He knew something was wrong. He had been a huge success off the field. He made so much money in the meat business. If you went to McDonald's or Burger King and you had breakfast, Dave Pearson was the guy providing the sausage. It was an enormous business. He was so successful that the people at Notre Dame made him a trustee of the university. He then entered into a process of dementia. He ended up a suicide. he shot himself in the chest so as to save his brain for examination to find out exactly what had happened to him from these concussions. That case may come back to Chicago, and we may find out the answers to some of these questions. In Boston, as some of you must know, we have a tight end, Aaron Hernandez, who is now charged in one murder and under investigation for others. There is apparent gang involvement in this. It is a frightening and scary case that will continue before it will end. Those are the kinds of things that I find myself working on, so you can see what a breath of fresh air it is for me to be here and to be involved in inducting these great individuals into the University of Chicago Athletics Hall of Fame. Here at the University of Chicago, we are involved in a different kind of sports program. Academics who study college sports have agreed that the model that is used here is the way college sports ought to be done. William Bowen, who has written a number of books on this topic, mentions both this university and the University Athletic Association as models of the way college sports ought to happen. Our program is comprehensive, it is competitive, it features all that is good in college sports and none of the bad. Our student athletes, incredibly, are both students and athletes, something we do not see in many other places. The athletics department, Aaron has told you a little bit about it. It is the largest single department and enterprise on this campus. We have 502 varsity athletes playing 19 different sports, 311 men, 191 women. They play a total of 330 games against other schools each year. On the intramural side of the ledger, we have 7,500 participating. That includes some double counts if somebody is playing volleyball and softball or somebody else is playing soccer and basketball. But it's a total of 7,500 people participating in a season of an intramural sport. 752 different teams play in 2,100 games each year. If you take the entire department and look at the success of the last year, this is the success of the entire department. Aaron told you about the successes of our inductees. We have one academic All-American. That actually sounds a little low, doesn't it, for a place like this? We have 18 All-Americans, 25 national qualifiers, 117 all-conference athletes, 8 UAA Rookies of the Year, and among the 443 schools in Division III, when you take their programs and their wins and losses and add them together, we rank 48th among the 443 division schools. The Ratner Center and the Crown Fieldhouse have visits from 591,000 people in and out each year. Some of those people, of course, are going every day, but that's how many people come and go in the course of a year. Judy and I have never had any doubt about what went on in this university and its athletics program, but it became very apparent to us when our son arrived here 28 years ago to play football and to study political science. During his freshman year, the Maroons went to Galesburg to play Knox College. It was a dark, cloudy, and wet day. The field was mud. I am a sports writer, I have been to a fantastic number of football games. I saw Gale Sayers play in Wrigley Field. I saw Dick Butkus play there. I saw Walter Payton play in Soldier Field. I have never seen a performance to equal what Bruce Montella, the Maroons running back, did on that day against Knox College. He ran through the mud for 305 yards, and then a week later, we all gathered here for the next game. Mary Jean Mulvaney, whom you met a few minutes ago, always had a lunch for the parents of the football players. Judy and I walked into the lunch and we noticed there was a crowd around the table where Bruce Montella's parents were sitting. And I automatically thought, oh, isn't that nice? They are congratulating the parents because Bruce was the Sports Illustrated College Player of the Week for having run for 305 yards. We walked over to offer our congratulations, and we learned something that I will not soon forget. Nobody was talking about Sports Illustrated. They were congratulating his parents because Bruce had early admission to the University of Chicago Medical School. That is a true University of Chicago situation. Before we start the inductions, we have a couple of items that I would like to bring to your attention. I want you to meet some people whom you have not yet met. First, Bernie Del Giorno, one of the great friends of the athletic department of this university. Please stand up, Bernie. Every program should have a Bernie Del Giorno. We have ours. I want you to meet one of the trustees of the university, Paul Jovovich, who is sitting next to my wife, Judy. And somewhere out here we have Michael Peters, who is the president of the Alumni Board of Governors. Where is, there he is, right there. Okay. Now, on a sad note, I would like to mention that on September 15th, we lost a member of our Hall of Fame, Mitchell Watkins. He was well known to many of you who are here in the room. There are some basketball tables. The tall, old guys over there, they all knew Mitch very well. Mitch was a friend of ours. He was a great friend of John Davies. And he was an absolute star in both track and basketball. He would have been admitted to the Hall of Fame in either of those sports. He happened to excel in both. He is one of the more remarkable athletes I have ever seen. He did so many things well. He could do the high hurdles, a most difficult event in track. He was a star in the long jump. He once lost to Ralph Boston by only a few inches. He could literally fly through the air. Many of us thought that if Mitch had ever set aside basketball, set aside all the other things he was doing, getting an undergraduate degree and an MBA here, for example, if he had set all that to one side, he would have been a world-class decathlon athlete. Just as a measure of his athletic ability, when Judy and I were here on the campus, she worked in the Dean of Students' office of the Graduate School of Business, now the Booth School. In that office was a counter that was about this high. What is that? Maybe 4 feet high. When you walked into this office to conduct your business, you stood at that counter. Mitch Watkins was not one to stand at the counter. He could step back 2 steps and leap and land both feet on the counter. The only people who could possibly do that are Mitchell Watkins and Michael Jordan. Mitchell Watkins was a lot more fun to watch doing that. We will miss Mitchell terribly, and I would like us to take a brief moment of silence now in his memory and in celebration of his life. Thank you. We will now induct We have 7 remarkable people to induct into the Hall of Fame. Our first inductee is a pitcher who rewrote the baseball record book and holds every major university record that a pitcher can hold. He started 37 games during his career pitching for the Maroons. He completed 23. you hear what I said? He completed 23 of the 37 games. You just don't hear that anymore in baseball. He won 27 of those 37 games. All of those are obviously university records. He struck out 296 hitters in 293 innings, and he walked only 102 people. I am a lifetime Chicago Cubs fan. I have never heard numbers like this from my team, the Chicago Cubs. His 296 strikeouts are 100 more than the next person on the list. He threw 4 shutouts, and he finished with an earned run average of 3.65. This is the best set of numbers we have had in this Hall of Fame since we admitted Kelly Osler, a remarkable softball pitcher whom we brought in a few years ago. Adam worked with the same catcher for 4 years. He is here tonight, Jared Stallard. Jared reports to me that Adam had three great pitches, a fastball, a slider, and a curve. He could throw all of them for strikes. He could throw all of them on any count. Those of you who are baseball fans know that this is the sign of a great pitcher. His slider was his out pitch, as we say. It looked like a fastball coming straight into the hitter, and at the very last moment, it slid away from the right-handed hitters toward the left-handed hitters, and he got a lot of people out with that pitch. Jared, the catcher, and Adam worked very well together. They played together incredibly as pitcher and catcher for 4 years. They had remarkable chemistry. Now, all of us have been to a baseball game, and you see the catcher will walk out to the mound to talk to the pitcher. Haven't you always kind of wondered, what are they talking about? Is the catcher saying, "Did you see that girl over by first base?" What are they talking about? These guys were so in tune with each other that when Jared walked out to the mound to talk to Adam, they didn't say anything. They just knew it was time to take a short rest. He'd walk out there, they'd look around, and then he would say, "Okay, let's go," and we'll walk back. Now we know what happens in those conversations. One of the best games that Adam ever pitched was against Notre Dame. This was a year when Notre Dame had a great team. They ended up very close to the College World Series. Adam pitched 9 innings. He gave up only 6 hits. He struck out 8 Notre Dame hitters. They lost the game 3-1. Mark Mosier, a member of the Hall of Fame who is here, hit a home run in that game. And in the 8th inning of that game, the Maroons had 2 men on base. Mosier is up. He hits a laser up the middle of the field. Incredibly, the Notre Dame shortstop dives, makes the catch, flips the ball to second base, where he doubled off a Maroon player named Tom Costello. If that ball had been 1 inch either way, the Maroons beat Notre Dame. But it was a typical effort by Adam Hughes, our inductee. He also beat the defending Division III champions, the University of Southern Maine. He compiled all of these records, these incredible numbers, even though, as Coach Baldea told me, he was sent up against all the best competition that the Maroons had that year. He was also a good hitter. Like most pitchers, when he comes up here, he'll probably want to talk about what a great hitter he is. He did bat .333 and led the team in RBIs in his senior year. So here's a guy, he shows up on the campus. He wins 10 games as a freshman. He is a formidable, accomplished pitcher. What did his fellow players think of him? Here's what they thought of him. They were really impressed that his girlfriend at that time was a cheerleader for the Seattle Seahawks football team. That's what they thought of him. Now, his roommates at the time, they had an apartment that was known as 1154. Remember the guy who got doubled off second base? He was one of them. his roommates Tom Costello and Joe Porton are still waiting for Adam to do the dishes for the first time. He graduated from the University of Michigan Law School. He is now practicing law in Seattle. Help me welcome Adam Hughes.
Well, thank you, Lester. That was a great introduction, and it's really an amazing honor to be part of this university. You know, coming from Seattle, somewhat randomly ending up here because it's a great school. My aunt and uncle lived out here. Coach Baldea told me we got a great group of guys here. He'd never tell me what their record was. And we didn't have the internet back then, so I couldn't figure it out. But he was right. We had a great group of guys on the baseball team, and as can be seen by all the people that have shown up here, there's a great group of people involved in the athletic program. But I'll get back to that in a second. I was very lucky to have parents that pushed me to come here. Rather than taking walk-on offers at Purdue or Washington, I guess you could say we talked about it and we agreed that Chicago provided the greatest expected value for success in life. I thought that was appropriate because I didn't know what EV meant until my freshman year here, and boy, turned out we were right. Of course, there were second thoughts once I arrived. First orientation speech about running from a gunman rather than getting in a car with him was an eye-opener. South side of Chicago is a little different than the south end of Seattle. Having to take Spanish again literally nearly drove me away. But in the end, the great group of guys that Baldea had put together kept me here. I was lucky enough to play for a coach like Brian Baldea that's still here. His record speaks for itself. And obviously he's very good at recruiting good players and good people. I was also lucky enough to play with some of the greatest players in the history of this university, including Mark Mosier's here tonight, who single-handedly won me quite a few of those games. Let's be honest. Also here tonight, a teammate of mine, Ryan Gassman, who emerged as a great shortstop despite really getting under coach's skin sometimes. We won't go into the details here, but feel free to ask Coach about it. But I was most fortunate, as Lester mentioned, to play with Jared Stout. 4 years as a battery together built incredible memories. For those of you who don't know who he is or what he was as a player, he was a scrappy, hard-nosed catcher from Hallam, Nebraska. If you don't know where Hallam is, it's a suburb of Crete, Nebraska, so that should help. Jared was not only a great catcher and teammate, but he taught me a lot of things, like it doesn't have to be just like last year. And of course, after he graduated, how to mix liquid cattle feed. But I digress. I guess what I should say is that with all the great memories here at the University of Chicago, including the FOP, Saturday morning practices with no gloves, meaning we're just running. Usually after a big Fiji party or something like that. So Fallers 3-2-1, Hotfoots among the pitching staff, the Hambird incident, of course, the many great actual baseball games that I will never forget. What I cherish most are the friendships, especially the one I made with Jared, his family, who have all made it here today, amazingly, from all over the country. So thank you to the Stallards for being the Stallards. I'd also like to thank my parents who couldn't be here tonight because they're on a 30-day cruise. They're in the Falkland Islands, apparently, so I'd say hello on YouTube to them. I'd like to thank my surrogate Chicago parents, my aunt, uncle Joan, and Jim, for coming tonight. Just spent many local Thanksgiving and Easter there, did some laundry. My brother Hunter and his wife Terrell for flying out from Seattle for this, and I thank Hunter for choosing not to come here so that my records could stand. Again, I'd like to thank Mark Mosier for coming out from DC and for giving me at least 5 or 6 of those wins. Thank Ryan Gassman for coming out from Florida. Thank my father-in-law, Tom, who also played college baseball, coming up from Florida. Thank Coach Baldea, the timeless coach. He looks the same as he did when I showed up, almost 20 years ago. He really made the Chicago baseball experience what Lester was talking about. How, yes, we were very into baseball, but we were also here to get a degree and, hedge our bets. Lastly, I'd like to thank my wife, who will be my teammate for the rest of my life, and for our for our 9-month-old daughter, who couldn't be here tonight, but again will be on YouTube. So again, thank you all for coming. Thank you for all of my friends and teammates and fellow athletes who showed up tonight to support me. I really appreciate it. It's an incredible honor to be part of the history of this university, and I thank you very much.
That was an incredible team that those guys had. Mark Mosier went on to play in the Giants system for a while, and I am told that if that shortstop at Notre Dame had not made that catch, not only would the Maroons have won, but Mark probably would have batted 500 that season. An incredible achievement. Our next inductee played the most undervalued position on the soccer field, the wide flank as an outside midfielder. She defined the position in the 4-4-2 system that our women's soccer program uses, and she set the course during her 4 years for what has become one of the great programs in this department. Her play on the flank changed the way other teams defended against the Maroons. They were forced to use their best player to mark Cinnamon Pace out of the game, allowing the Maroons to thrive in other places on the field. She starred both on defense and on attack. She is described by those who played with her as a hard-tackling defender who never lost a one-on-one battle. She was also a relentless attacker when she had the ball at her feet, and great on the backside, finishing any ball in her area. Now, that is the largest quantity of soccer jargon that I have ever personally used. I hope there are some people out there who understood some of what I said. I am a sports writer, and I know soccer is a sport, and I know I should know something about it, but I just don't. And so I'm doing the best I can here. Obviously, she is one of the greatest players in the history of the women's soccer program. There was another Hall of Famer. You already met her, Jessica Berry, with Jessica and Cinnamon leading the way. This team was the first ever from our university to make it into a Final Four tournament in the postseason. Men's soccer, it should be noted, made it 1 week later. So see what I said about soccer? It is important, no matter what I may think about it. The soccer team with Cinnamon and Jessica qualified for the postseason in all 4 of her years. She made All-Region and All-Conference 3 times. She was an All-American in 1998. She has always had a fascination with animals. There are a number of stories about her adventures with various kinds of animals. There is a story, it may be apocryphal, but it involves some flying fish. She kept the flying fish in the bathroom. That was one of the ideas that she had. Apparently what she forgot is flying fish can actually fly, and they flew out, landed on the floor, and did not do well on the floor of the bathroom. She later completed a PhD at Northern Arizona University. Her thesis was on the aquatic and terrestrial, I can't even read this, the aquatic and terrestrial locomotion of amphibious fishes. So she was serious about those flying fish. She has completed a postdoc. Her husband is now doing a postdoc at Michigan Tech up in Houghton, Michigan. She will be a great and popular professor, probably someday somewhere, and she is our next inductee, Cinnamon Pace, class of 2000. Cinnamon has something going on in her life, I can tell you.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so one slight amendment to that story. So Coach has been saying to me all evening, I told him the flying fish story. And I'm thinking, like, I have no idea what Coach is talking about. They were walking catfish. So they crawled out of their tank across the hotel room floor, and then when I came back, I put them back in their cooler and filmed them as part of my dissertation. But walking, not flying, just as a minor correction. All right, so I just want to say I am so very honored and humbled to be here tonight. It's always a little disconcerting to receive such an individual honor for a team sport, because honestly, I would never be here if it wasn't for the teams that I played with and how wonderful all of my teammates always were. And it was always a team effort in all of the achievements that we had. I feel very fortunate and thankful that I was able to attend the University of Chicago, be part of the women's soccer program, share that experience with this amazing group of women, especially some of those that became my best friends, many of whom are here tonight, my classmates in my year, and I'm very so thankful for them for still being part of my life over a decade later. You know, I'm truly thankful to Coach and to Bannon for supporting me both as a player and personally throughout my time here. And I am very thankful to my parents for being willing to put their daughter on a plane to go to a place they had never seen before and had never visited. I grew up in a very small town about an hour north of Seattle, and supportive of me doing that and chasing after that dream and saying, go for it. And they're here tonight too, so thank you as well, Mom and Dad. I've gained many, many things from this experience, and I realize that to a degree this is preaching to the choir, sort of about the value of Division III athletics and the importance of the scholar athlete. But I just have to say that my experience here, I've learned so many things. So playing soccer, and for every athlete, probably their own sport, is such a great microcosm for a lot of the challenges that we face in life and the skills that I use in my life and my career still today. So working hard, striving towards goals, turning several small sequential successes into a larger victory, how to throw everything you have towards a goal, knowing you might fail, and if win or if you do, how to pick yourself up and keep on going. So for all of that, I just want to say thank you. And that's it.
Can you take it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
When our next inductee arrived on the campus from Montana, the basketball team needed a lot of help. In Gary Pearson's first year, the team won only 6 of 17 games. But it then had records, as you can see in your program, of 11-7, 13-6, and in his final year, 18-4. During his 4 years, they won 48 of 76 games. For his career, Gary was 8th all-time in scoring average, 7th in free throws made. But his greatest contribution was his fierce rebounding. He was one of those guys who knew seemingly where the shot was going to go, and he was there to capture the rebound. There were no rebound records kept during his first year, but if you extrapolate, did you hear that? Extrapolate. If you say that word at Clemson, you have to go see the Dean of Students. But if you extrapolate and add the first season, his career rebounds would put him second on the list of career rebounders here at the university. He played with 4 other Hall of Fame players: Bill Lester, the aforementioned Mitchell Watkins, Joel Siemens, and Gene Erickson. He also played for 2 Hall of Fame coaches, Nels Norgren and Joe Stampf. Gary went on to distinction in academia. He did a master's in microbiology here, then did a PhD at Stanford. That's a university somewhere out west, I think. He worked at the Mayo Clinic, and he spent a good portion of his career as the chairman of microbiology at the Georgetown University Medical School. Gary Pearson. Looks a little different.
Sure does. Yes, I am Gary Pearson. If you look at the picture in the handouts, I look a little different. I don't wear glasses anymore. My hair has changed some. But hopefully, you know, I resemble the individual that was in the picture taken 50 years ago or so. I also, as pointed out, was a professor and had a reputation sometimes of speaking too much, but my wife has given me orders to just keep it short, so this will be a short presentation. First of all, I want to thank the committee for electing me into the Hall of Fame. I'm thrilled to join this elite group of athletes, you know, that are already there. To be honest with you, I never thought it would happen, and so I'm really, really appreciative. I also want to thank all my good friends and fellow athletes I played with, many of them were here tonight, for all their support for during the nomination process on it. Thanks a lot, guys, gals. I really appreciate it. It was great playing basketball for the University of Chicago Maroons. Thank you.
3 years ago, we inducted a football player by the name of Dan Phillips into the Hall of Fame. He is a linebacker. Many think that he is the greatest player of the modern era, and our next inductee is right there with Dan Phillips. His name is Ted Repass. He played middle linebacker. He was here he played from 1983 to 1987. Our son played during 2 of those years. Judy and I saw Ted play every game for his final 2 seasons. There is no one who hit any harder than Ted Repass. There is no one who worked any harder on the field. He is one of those linebackers who seemed to know somehow which way the play was going to go. He came here as a safety, and the coaches had the wisdom finally to move him to middle linebacker where he thrived. He was a particularly good defender against the pass. You would notice in these games that sometime late in the first quarter, the wide receivers and the tight ends on the other team would stop trying to go across the field where Ted was stationed. They would only go down and out, away from Ted Repass. They knew what would happen if they went into his territory. He was also well known for colossal hits that he made on his fellow team members as they scrimmaged here at the university during the week. He played alongside another great linebacker by the name of Dave Baker, and between the two of them, they were the bulwark of a remarkable defense. There was one particularly good team, 1986 team, with Ted, a defensive back named Paul Song, a quarterback named Matt Schaefer. They got off to a fantastic start, 3-0, but then the quarterback, Matt Schaefer, was hurt, and the season leveled off a bit. He had a peculiar shoulder that dislocated all the time. If you've ever had a dislocated shoulder, you know how painful that can be. He is one of these guys who would have somebody help him put it back in place, and then he would go back out and continue to play the game. When Ted graduated, the guy who replaced him at the position of middle linebacker was a man with the amazing name of Jim Bonebreak. One of my favorites. He met his wife Zorinka here on the campus. Many people who attended their wedding are still talking about the amazing Croatian music and dancing that was featured at their wedding. Help me welcome Ted Repass into the Hall of Fame.
Wow. I guess that's the first word that comes to my mind. I'm going to set that down for a sec. When I first came on campus, or actually when I was sitting here thinking about what was I going to say tonight, I was like, that was like 25 years ago. And then about 20 minutes ago, I realized, oh my gosh, it was 30 years ago. Right now, I found myself in this room during training camp in football. And I was like, oh my God, I'm an old guy. And I don't tell my kids that because they don't believe that I'm that old yet. But I have a couple things. First thing I want to say thank you to Mr. Munson, because that's the way I know Mr. Munson, because I've known him for about 28 years. And I sure hope that I'm never on one of those investigations that you've ever been. Although I think I might be in the concussion piece. I'm not sure about that. I can't really remember. I also want to say to Coach Wilkerson, although I have not had the pleasure to meet you, when I was here, well, one, athletics and academics really were pretty separated. It's great to see that. But during my 4 years, we actually were undefeated until school started. Now, I'm not saying that we were 4-0 a week ago until school started, but I think we lost one game, and I'm sure hoping that that trend continues on in a very different fashion, and you bring home a couple big championships for the team. So I really have three things I want to say. I'm grateful, I'm honored, and I'm humble. Yeah, that's right, three. I'm very grateful to the University of Chicago. It's given me wonderful opportunities that I would have never seen in my entire life. I'm also very grateful that to each and one of you that you came here tonight. You could have been anywhere else, but you chose to be here. And on behalf of me and my family and my friends that are here, thank you for coming. I'm honored. I'm honored to be a part of a very select and elite group. Not only the University of Chicago, but the Hall of Fame inductees, and that's really wonderful to me. And finally, I'll say I'm humbled. Every day when I came to school here, it was amazing how brilliant so many people were. But what I found is there was such great character. And of all the people that I've ever been around in my entire life, some of the best people that I've ever known, that when I look at and when I think about people with absolute wonderful decision-making and wonderful depth that they have, they were right here, and so many of them are in this room. So last thing I'll say is thank you very much. I really feel like the guy you described, Les, I'd like to meet him because that certainly wasn't me. But I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Our next inductee played quarterback for Amos Alonzo Stagg in 1913, and they won the Big Ten championship with a 7-0 record. That is exactly 100 years ago this year. His name is Paul Russell. He was known as Pete Russell. He became captain of the team in 1914. He was all conference in the Big Ten Conference for all those years as the Maroons went 16-4-1 against the best competition in college football of that era. In one game, he ran back 4 kickoffs and punts for touchdowns, an incredible record. He once drop-kicked a field goal to win a game. That was a play that Amos Alonzo Stagg had not called, and even though the kick won the game, Pete Russell was in trouble with the coach for not following orders. After he finished the university, he went on to a distinguished career in banking and civic affairs here in Chicago. He was president of the Harris Bank. He became a trustee of this university, and as a trustee, incredibly, voted to de-emphasize football, to withdraw from the Big Ten Conference where he had thrived as a player, following the guidance of the leader at that time, Robert Maynard Hutchins. His family is here in force. All stand up, everybody here. Here is accepting on behalf of the family is Paul Russell Jr., the son of Pete Russell. Dr. Russell is a member of the class of 1945 at this university. Dr. Russell.
It's a great joy for me to be amongst all you highly intelligent athletes. I accept this award with great feeling for my beloved father in the name of 24 of his offspring and in-laws. I must say, Judy Munson told me just before dinner that you all have only been doing this for a few years, dozen years or so. So my father's time, of course, was in a very earlier time of glory for sports here at the University of Chicago. You remember I mentioned you're highly intelligent athletes. I'm going to try to prove that to you by reading you a short excerpt of a forebear of Lester Munson's, a man who wrote for the Chicago Tribune, famous writer called Ring Lardner. He knows about Ring Lardner. Ring Lardner wrote an article in 1914, which I'm going to read you a short bit of it, entitled Russell's Run for the Maroons Beats Iowa. Pete's favorite trick, nets only score in 7-1 battle. Here's the article. So successfully did Pete's original trick play against Northwestern a week ago that he tried it again in the first period yesterday. It beat Iowa. Mr. Carberry of the Hawkeyes was forced to punt from his own territory. Russell caught the ball in midfield, and having caught it, stood still until Iowa's ends thought he wasn't going to run with it. The deceitful Pete then and there did run with it and never was tackled. North bleachers, Stagg Field went north and south then. The north bleachers being in his road, he did not go all the way downtown, but stopped near 56th Street. As his stopping place was behind Iowa's goal, the alert officials called it a touchdown for Chicago. So, that's my effort to prove to you that highly intelligent athletics is not a new thing at Chicago. Thank you all very much for my beloved father.
Two years from now, Dr. Russell will probably be returning to the campus for his 70th college reunion. Think about that. 70th college reunion. Our next inductee played 3 sports and earned varsity letters for every season that she played those 3 sports, a remarkable record. She played volleyball, basketball, and softball. She was a setter in volleyball, a point guard in basketball. She both pitched and played second base in softball. She won a championship in a statewide listing for the university in 1997. As was mentioned earlier, she was a most valuable player twice in volleyball and then again in basketball, a most valuable player in 2 separate sports. She was a leader of the team. The volleyball team at one point had a series of stretches that they did before they practiced. She gave each of the stretches names. One of the names was sublimation. Is that not a perfect, just like Dr. Russell says, you got to be smart to be an athlete here. You have to know what sublimation means in a stretch. She had the 8th best career scoring average for women's basketball. After graduation, she was an assistant basketball coach at Yale. She had to do that, I guess. She then worked on admissions at Denison College in Granville, Ohio, and is now working for a nonprofit that assists young people in their efforts to attend college. Her husband, Tom, played football here. She came here from West Lafayette, Indiana. The high school there, the teams are known as the Red Devils. She and others were pioneers at West Lafayette in attempting to establish girls and women's sports. And I understand she may tell us a little bit about that as she accepts her induction into the Hall of Fame. Janet Torrey Schultz. You get one of these.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, here, we'll put it right there.
Well, my goodness, it sprung back up, just like Karen Kuby and her good jumps. Thank you very much, Mr. Munson. I'm absolutely thrilled and honored to be here. I want to thank the selection committee and most especially thank those good friends, former coaches, and teammates who helped make this special recognition possible by nominating me. I'm truly humbled and incredibly honored. For a person who has spent over 30 years interacting with young people about college and the college search process, I'm embarrassed to admit that me landing at the U of C was due to one absolutely chance happening and 0 planning. So picture this. It's the fall of my senior year. My dear late father has been nagging me for months to get busy on my college search. Then one morning at breakfast, he shoved a Parade magazine insert from the Sunday paper under my nose and said, "So here's a college you ought to check out because they seem to really value women's athletics." And like Mr. Russell brought, I brought also a little article. This is from my scrapbook at home. I made a copy because the scrapbook copy is very valuable to me. But this is the aforementioned article in the Parade magazine. Its title is, "Are Women Athletes Achieve New Status?" And then it had a 2-page spread, Chicago's Sporting Scholars. And I did bring this for other reasons, for good blackmail material, and she's starting to smile and laugh, but it features a very young Ann Harvilla, who's now the dean of the Booth College of Business, in this article, and a Hall of Famer. So that's my Exhibit A. This article featured 6 of the Gertrude Dudley Scholarship recipients. Remember, this was 1976. The notion of offering women scholarships for sports was simply unheard of. As a matter of fact, as Mr. Munson said, my Indiana high school, this is the home of basketball, Hurrying Hoosiers, refused to begin a girls' basketball team for 3 straight years, reluctantly giving in my senior year. So in my mind, this article made Chicago seem like Shangri-La for women's sports. 1 month later, I found myself on a special Dudley Perspective Weekend, being hosted by one of the athletes in the article and being introduced for the first time to the University of Chicago. The simple chance occurrence of my father showing me this Parade magazine ended up shaping my life direction in so many, many significant ways. I could list dozens, but I've been told repeatedly to keep to 1 to 2 minutes, so I'm trying to do that. But let me close by mentioning just a few. By observing dynamic role models like Mary Jean Mulvaney, I learned that women could be visionary and extremely effective leaders. I experienced firsthand what a meaningful profession coaching could be by playing for exceptional mentors like Rosie Resch, Diane Nestle, and the late Pat Kirby. I was pushed by extraordinary teammates, both on and off the court, and together we enjoyed success, and more importantly, we learned from failure. Lastly, I met Tom Schultz. After graduation, we married in Bond Chapel, and 32 years later, this June, I consider him to be my most important University of Chicago teammate. Thank you very much. I'm incredibly honored.
In his senior year in high school, our next inductee was visiting his girlfriend when a University of Chicago coach called to try to persuade him to attend our university. The girl's father told him that the University of Chicago was something he ought to consider, that it was one of the greatest institutions of higher learning in the United States. That girl is now his wife. He followed the advice from his now father-in-law, and he came to Chicago and became one of the greatest running backs of the modern era of football. Brandon Way was, according to Coach Dick Maloney, a blood and guts runner. He ran hard. He ran between the tackles. His longest gain on any particular play was probably 35 yards or less. He scored more touchdowns than any other running back in the history of this university, 33. He scored 4 touchdowns in 1 game. When I asked him about that game, he said he thought it might have been against Kenyon. He was not sure. This is a true University of Chicago scholar athlete. If you ask any other running back anywhere about a particular touchdown, they can bore you with details for 30 minutes. I have listened to running backs talk about touchdowns that were called back because of penalties. They remember everything. By the way, Brandon, it was Kenyon. I checked. He carried the ball 701 times for 3,253 yards. If you subtract the 33 touchdowns from those 701 attempts, that means he was tackled 668 times. Think about that. Tackled 668 times by large young men who wanted to knock him out of the game. He averaged 4.6 yards per carry. His most dramatic game, and a game that won the first conference championship in football for the University of Chicago in 6 decades, was a game against Carnegie Mellon. The Maroons were winning 9-7 late in the game. There were only a minute and some odd seconds left to play. The Maroons had the ball, 4th down, 2 yards to go for a first down. If they made the first down, it was a win and it was a conference championship. The coaches called an inside dive play, naturally handing the ball to Brandon. Brandon hit the pile of blockers once. He bounced back. He hit the pile again. He bounced back, and then a third time he crashed into the pile, and this time he burst through for 6 yards, and whammo, a conference championship. It was a huge win. It was a turning point for the football program that then went on to great successes. Help me welcome Brandon Way to the Hall of Fame.
Thank you all. This is quite a tremendous honor, as all of my colleagues have said. I'd like to first thank my teammates, many of them who are gracious enough to be here tonight. Without you guys, I wouldn't be standing in front of you. I'd also like to thank my family, particularly my 2 little girls who won't be, it's very nice to be able to share this moment with them because, as you can imagine, I won't be taking the field again anytime soon. And lastly, I'd like to just thank my parents who, without their self-sacrifice, really my whole life, I never would have ended up at this university or been able to accomplish these achievements. So thank you very much.
Let's have one more round of applause for this class of 7 inductees to the Hall of Fame.
Wow, that's about the word I can come up with too. Many of you use the word humbled. And I'd have to say, standing before you now, I certainly am the most humbled person in the room. Again, so honored to serve in this capacity for you. And I think I've figured out now why, I'll just say the place I used to be, why Princeton doesn't have a Hall of Fame and doesn't do this kind of ceremony, because all of you were so compliant with being brief. Sorry, Lester, he's an alumnus, but that rule would not work there. We'd still be here for probably 3 more hours, so they would never be able to have. I was a little worried when we got started a little late, but you all made it worth it, and certainly we're doing fine. But it's just so amazing to hear from all of you, and hope I have the chance to meet all of you personally very soon. Coming into the close of the evening, there's a couple more people you need to hear from. So first I want to bring Damon Cates up here. Damon has been instrumental in the joint development of the Athletics Hall of Fame by Athletics and the Alumni Association. It's a partnership that began from the inception of the Hall of Fame. He's also quickly become one of my campus allies as we work to build a broader partnership with alumni relations. Please welcome Damon Cates, Executive Director of the University of Chicago Alumni Association.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to see all of you here this evening. And thank you for coming out to celebrate one of what is truly the University of Chicago's finest moments. I attend a lot of alumni events and a lot of special occasions on behalf of the university, and this is by far my favorite. On behalf, as Aaron mentioned, I have the honor of serving as the executive director of the university's Alumni Association for the past 3 years now, and also I'm a graduate of the Booth School of Business, and representing over 300,000 alumni, parents, friends of the university worldwide. It is truly my honor and privilege to welcome the most current inductees into the Hall of Fame. So congratulations to you and to your families and friends. I also wanted to take this opportunity for a couple of public service announcements, one of which is to let you all know that if you haven't heard, which I hope you have, this is homecoming weekend and family weekend. So if you find yourself, I hope, in Hyde Park tomorrow, it's also Humanities Day too, but if you find yourself in Hyde Park, please stop by for a number of programming opportunities that we have, including obviously the home football game, but there's tailgating activities, and there's a block party and all kinds of things planned around homecoming, so I hope you'll come back for that. And then I also want to let you know that we enjoy this evening so much that we'd like to continue the party. So if you also don't need to leave the university or Hyde Park, please join us across the street at the Quad Club, where we'll continue the festivities over there. And last but not least, I hope this is just the beginning of all the things that you'll do to associate with the university and with the athletics program. And thank you all for supporting the University of Chicago, its students, and its athletes. Thank you very much.
You ready, John? And our closer is John Davey. As you know, John is the chairman of the Athletics Hall of Fame Selection Committee. He is a graduate of UChicago, the college, and the law school. Winner of the Stagg Medal in 1961, former president of the Graduate Order of the Sea, and member of the College Visiting Committee. He received the Alumni Service Medal in 2004, is a current member of the Alumni Board of Governors, and leader in the formation of the Athletics Hall of Fame as a participant of the Athletics Hall of Fame Steering Committee and chair of the Selection Committee. Please welcome John Davey.
First of all, you know, this is a big day for me. I'd like to congratulate all the inductees. You know, it's amazing. This Hall of Fame is 11 years old, and it's just terrific. I'm so happy for all of you people, but I'm so happy that we continue to do this. Also want to thank everybody who's here attending this dinner. It's really important, I think, that we support these wonderful athletes and things they've done for us. I'm really pleased that so many people came. We have a pretty good crowd here tonight. I'd like to also mention that we have a number of students and coaches and one thing and another, and I'd like to thank a number of people who, very generous alumni who provided us with some support for that, and I appreciate that. I hope, as a matter of fact, because we have a lot of coaches and we have some students here, I hope you got the chance at your various tables to visit with some of them. We have some new members of the coaching staff, and we have students are always changing, new students. But I think for the alumni who come here, it's a very valuable chance to actually figure out what's going on at our university, and it is our university. And I think what's happening now at the university, you'd be very pleased about. It isn't just about these people we're recognizing, it's about the wonderful students we have here now and what's going on. Now, of course, I want to thank the selection committee, but it's kind of for you people, it's kind of you know, first of all, the selection committee obviously has made wise selections. I salute my committee for that. That's very good. And I appreciate all of their work, and I'll explain a little bit more about that in a minute. I, of course, would like to thank Lester Munson. Lester and I, this is our 11th year together here. I looked up, Judy and Eliza will understand, is not Lester and I are an 11th anniversary here, but the 11th anniversary award happens to be steel, and I didn't have anything really memorable to bring Lester as a gift that was steel, but we and our wives are thinking cold steel on ice. We're going to figure something out along those lines. I have to thank Andy Langlace, who is the person for the alumni office, who's the project director. As I've explained to some people, I believe, I thought when they said project director, it made the Hall of Fame. I think the project's handling John Davey. That was the project that he faced. It's a very hard thing to direct. I should have put him in touch with Eliza long ago about that, but he's done a terrific job in all this planning and everything. And Mary Kovacs, who runs the all of this dinner and everything, I hope you had a good dinner and I hope you had a nice time with that. And let me tell you that they didn't do it alone. There's a lot of staff that's involved in that. And I'd actually ask you to give them a little bit of applause because they really did so much for it. Now, one thing that was pointed out, and I think it's really important, is that, you know, this really is a joint venture, this Hall of Fame and this dinner. And it's a joint venture between the Alumni Association and between the athletic department. And we just heard from Damon Cates, head of the Alumni Association, and we heard from Aaron McDermott, the athletic director. This is a joint venture between them and all our people. But I also appreciate the fact that the only reason that they really can do that is, or I suspect the only reason they're allowed to do it or something, is that the university is giving great support to this event. And Karen Warren Coleman, who came here again tonight, I appreciate your coming, and I appreciate the fact that you demonstrate that the university is going to continue to support this joint venture, which I really think a lot about. I also want to give a quick description of the selection process. We have people send in a form and tell us who they'd like to nominate. And then the committee tries to work from the information they gave us to develop who those people are and who we should look at as a selection process. It doesn't work quite that perfectly. The fact is that when people nominate people, they ought to tell us a lot about them. We appreciate all sorts of letters from other people. They tend to call them supporting letters, but as Lester and the people on the committee and I know, this university, for all of its interest in history and archaeology and past and everything, the records aren't real good. And we're very good for those years, for the Russell years and so forth, where they had yearbooks and things like that. They're pretty good. But there were some kind of years where either they didn't have yearbooks like they don't have today, or they failed to cover sports. So it's pretty hard to do the investigation. We have even employed an intern part of a summer to just go over old records and one thing and another. So here's my point. First of all, don't assume that we're neglecting somebody you think should be in the Hall of Fame. Please send us your nomination, and please send us the information you know about them, or at least give us enough starts so we can figure out who they were. The second thing is, there are never too many letters. Okay, because there's more information in each letter. It doesn't mean that it's as a poll or something, how many letters can you get? But the important thing is that we glean a little bit of information out of all of those. And I would appreciate it if we have plenty of nominees there now, and I'm going to develop a way where you can go up and find out who we've received nominations. Don't know how to do that exactly yet, but we will get that done. Okay, I'm trying to cover a couple other things here. What happens tomorrow? We haven't really talked about that for a moment. What happens tomorrow is that there is a block party, the second annual. I'm always bothered when they say the second annual. I went to the first annual last year, but it's a block party, and you've got to see this thing. It's between Ellis and Cottage, well, Ellis and the gateway to Stagg Field. And this is a remarkable thing. And it was terrific last year. It'll be terrific this year. There's tremendous student participation. And then after the block party, as it's closing down, the game against McAllister. I know you wanted to have it say McLester or something, a family deal or something. But McAllister will take place. And at halftime, the inductees will again be honored and will be identified not only by the people here, but by all the people who we have at the game. That halftime will be very nice. The football game will be good. I'd like to emphasize that fact. The block party's a pretty good deal, and you might want to look at this. Believe it or not, we have tailgaters at the University of Chicago. You know, as a matter of fact, I was thinking to myself before, my friend Gary Pearson back here, he's got some kids here, and he's going to see this thing, and he's going to say, you know, the ad they had on TV, it's not your father's Oldsmobile. He's going to say to this kid, this is not your father's university. Now, Mr. Russell here, for his people, he'll say, this was my father's university. Now, I say that as my parents were great Hutchins advocates, but of course, Mr. Hutchins turned his head while I was saying that. But I think everything is going well for that. Anyway, so those are things to think about tomorrow. Now, the question are the alternatives tonight, and I'd just like to throw them out for a moment. Remember that you do have, Damon mentioned across the street at the Quad Club, I actually think there's a pep rally going on over at the Ratner Center tonight. I don't know how many people are into pep rallies. Most of us haven't experienced that. Maybe you saw it on film, but I think that's happening if you want to join in that. Now, what do we do the rest of this evening right now? And because I'm supposed to be the closer or something. Well, I'm going to introduce a singing group. University of Chicago actually has a very fine singing group. They're out there waiting, and I will tell you that what they are planning to do is sing for us, and then they're going to lead us in the alma mater. This is a great break for you people because at these initial meetings, I was charged with leading the alma mater. More sensible heads have come in and said, no, that's not right. So I am going to talk right now and sort of sign off from that part of it, and then they're going to sing, but I want to tell you they will sing, and then they will sing the first verse of the alma mater, which we'll all stand for, and then they will sing again the first verse, only we'll all sing with them. You got that? And John will step away from the mic so that you can enjoy that part of the thing. And I'm not sure if they have it up here before. We actually have another sort of a special treat tonight, and I don't know if they have the thing up here right now or whether I've gotten out of order in what I'm describing before these guys sing. But we have a letter that was written to the University of Chicago in 1904. There it is. Signed by Amos Alonzo Stagg, in which Stagg sends $1,000 to the university. That was a pretty good gift at that time. I don't know what the $1,000 club was like, but Stagg apparently had been sick that year, and his recuperation was inspired listening to chimes. Actually, the chimes reminded him of his days at Yale when he listened to chimes. Anyway, the thought came to him, why not have a good night message for the athletes? And so he wanted the sweet cadence, as it says there somewhere in the letter, and I think we'll get another print up there. So it was his request that this $1,000 be used, that a special sweet cadence be sounded after the regular 10 p.m. bells up here in the Mitchell Tower, so after 10 o'clock. And he actually even recommended that the bells be sounded between 10:04 and 10:10. And that would be when the athletes would put down their books and they would go to bed and listen to the inspirational tones of these bells. And they played the alma mater. And I have to report that when I was in school, they were still doing that. The Mitchell Tower at 10:06 every night played the alma mater. And I can tell you, as a guy, Gary Pearson, all those Sayus back there, when we lived over at the house, you could hear that at 10:06. And I will tell you, we did put down our books. We did not necessarily seek inspiration in the way Mr. Stagg had anticipated. But it was a nice event. Now, here's the point. As we leave here tonight, after these gentlemen sing, after we then sing the alma mater, and as you're leaving here, you will hear those bells playing the alma mater. And this is a new thing this year, but you will get that sweet serenade that Mr. Stagg wanted. And I will, and it's hard in this letter, but I could show it to you. This whole thing about going to bed was for guys in training. I have looked over everybody here. I've even checked myself up in the mirror. My guess is we don't have that many people in training here. So my guess is Mr. Stagg, given this honor, wonderful evening and one thing and another, he would give us all permission, perhaps, to stay up a little later, go to the Quadrangle Club, seek inspiration there, maybe go over to the pep rally, seek inspiration there, or maybe at one of the nice establishments that we have in the neighborhood, or the fraternities. Anyway, the singing group is ready. They will perform for us, and then they will lead us in the alma mater. And I'll just say goodbye after the whole thing is done. No more talk. Thanks.
I'm strong for Chicago, CHICAGO. The women are fairest, the men are the squarest of any old place I know. I'm strong for Chicago, the place where the breezes blow. No matter the weather, we'll all stick together for CHICAGO. This I know. For Chicago, CHICAGO. The women are fairest, the men are the squarest of any old place I know, place I know. For Chicago, the place where the breezes blow, no matter the weather, we'll all stick together. For CHICAGO. flowing bowl until it runneth over. For tonight we'll merry, for tonight we'll merry, for tonight we'll merry, tomorrow we'll get sober. For tonight we'll merry, for tonight we'll merry, for tonight we'll merry, tomorrow we'll get sober. The man who drinks good whiskey punch and goes to bed right mellow. The man who drinks good whiskey punch and goes to bed right mellow. Lives as he ought to live, lives as he ought to live, lives as he ought to live, and dies a jolly good fellow. Lives as he ought to live, lives as he ought to live, lives as he ought to live, and dies a jolly good fellow. The man who drinks cold water pure and goes to bed right sober. The man who drinks cold water pure and goes to bed right sober. Falls as the leaves do fall, falls as the leaves do fall, falls as the leaves do fall so early in October. Falls as the leaves do fall, falls as the leaves do fall, falls as the leaves do fall so early in October. But he who drinks just what he likes and gets his passage over, but he who drinks just what he likes and gets his passage over, will live and live until he dies. Hey! Will live and live until he dies. Will live and live until he dies, and then lie down in clover. So tonight we'll merry, merry be. Hey! So tonight we'll merry, merry be. So tonight we'll merry, merry be. Tomorrow we'll get sober. And whose sons now loyal voices proudly raise to bless her with our many songs. Of all fair mothers fairest she, most wise of all that wisest be, most true. Proudly raised to bless her with our many songs. Of all fair mothers fairest she, most wise.